Chapter 13. Holidays Abroad. Section 1. At the weekend, Arthur and Mary drove down with Simon to Applefield. Shortly after they got there, Christopher and Jennifer arrived together with Christopher's parents. Christopher's father turned out to be another member of the medical profession. In fact, he was quite an eminent Harley Street surgeon. Dr. Newton was astonished to discover that Mr. Peacock, Christopher's father, was a contemporary of his when he was a medical student at Guy's, the famous London teaching hospital. The London teaching hospitals are known not only for the excellence of their medical training, but also for the fact that many of their students play rugby and reach a very high standard. Many of them have in fact played for England. Both Dr. Newton and Mr. Peacock had been members of the same hospital rugby team. Dr. Newton was naturally delighted to have somebody he'd known for such a long time become an extra member of the family, so to speak. After dinner, they had a small number of close family friends in for a few drinks to celebrate Jennifer's engagement. When everybody had left, Arthur brought up the subject of their coming holiday. They were at a bit of a loss as to what to do, particularly as they'd got Simon to consider. Mrs. Newton surprised both Mary and Arthur by saying that Simon would be no problem, as she would be only too delighted to look after her grandson for a while. This was something that had never crossed their minds, and they were slightly taken aback. However, the more they thought about it, the better the idea seemed. Not having Simon to consider gave them much more scope. Mr. Peacock suggested that they might like to go somewhere warm on a package tour. He told them that he and his wife had just recently been to Greece for a holiday and had thoroughly enjoyed themselves.
Oh, let me take him, Mary.
Are you sure Simon wouldn't be too much for you, Mother?
No, of course not. I am a mother myself, you know. And what's more, I used to work in a children's ward. That's going back a bit, of course. But I don't suppose babies have changed very much.
No, I suppose not. Well, if you really wouldn't mind...
Well, that's settled then. The only thing we've got to bother about now is where we're going to.
We've just come back from Greece, actually. And we had a marvellous time, didn't we, Pat?
Yes, we were on an absolutely beautiful island called Delos.
What about doing a bit of salmon fishing in Scotland? That's the sort of thing I like. Nice and peaceful. Recharge your batteries.
Oh, yes. And what do I do all day? That might be all right for Arthur, but it doesn't appeal to me much.
Yes, and I'm sure I'd never catch anything. Anyway, with my luck, it'd probably rain for the whole time we were there. Like it did in Wales that time. Remember, Mary?
Why don't you do something energetic, like skin diving or yachting or even pony trekking? Might help to get that paunch of yours down, Arthur.
Thank you very much. One thing I like about you, Jennifer, you're always so free with the compliments.
What about a trip up the Rhine in a boat? It's beautiful at this time of year. And there's all that lovely wine.
Arthur would probably get seasick.
Very funny. What do you think, Mary?
Well, I rather fancy the Mediterranean. Somewhere where it's nice and warm and where I can have lots of attention.
Yes, that's a point, Arthur. Mary must have been having a hard time of it recently. What with having to cope on her own, while you've been trotting off all over the place and working overtime and whatnot.
Well, what about going back to that place on the Costa Brava where we had our honeymoon?
Yes, it was very nice there. Lovely, in fact. But I'd like to go somewhere I've never been before.
I still think you should give Greece a try.
Wouldn't it be rather expensive?
Oh, no, not at all. If you went on the same package as we did, you'd find it very reasonable. As a matter of fact, I've got all the brochures and things in the car.
What do you think, Arthur?
Yes, that sounds a very good idea. Let's do that.
Section 2. The passage is taken from An Affair of the Heart, an autobiographical novel about Greece by Dilys Powell.
Janina, capital of Epirus, is, as I've said, a garrison town. 20 miles to the north, in the direction of the Albanian frontier, the country becomes a military area, and since I wanted to penetrate this territory, I'd been provided by the press department with letters of introduction. I went at once to the office of the Nomok, the prefect of the nome or province, but he was out, and I must telephone later. I spent the dusking hour before dinner loitering through the town, past cafes and shops, in public gardens, through the old Turkish quarter which slopes to the lake, and down the long street of the silversmiths. The place is too large to have kept either the curiosity or the friendliness of the market towns, and when I sat down to dine at the Hellas restaurant, I felt solitary and out of joint with myself. I hadn't been able to plan for the morning. I wasn't sure whether I'd chosen rightly in coming to Janina. At the table on my right was a party of 5, men and women, eating and drinking with a more festive and a flashier air than is usual in a Greek provincial restaurant. As I ordered my dinner, they looked at me, but reflecting that a foreigner, and a woman dining alone at that, should not stare resentfully back, I occupied myself between courses in writing my day's notes, and tried not to listen to the voices and the laughter. I'd finished eating when the waiter came to stand gravely at my side. "The gentleman," he said, "offers you a drink." "A drink?" I said, frowning. "What gentleman?" "The gentleman at that table." I turned round. One of the cheerful party was beaming at me. "I hear you're speaking a little Greek," he said in English. "You are American?" "English," I said. "You are from America?" "Yeah, I come from Massachusetts. This here is my hometown. I come to see my family, my friends. Then I go back. You let me offer you a little cognac?" "Thank you very much," I said. "That's very kind of you." "Is nothing." His party looked on, smiling, delighted by their companion's citizenship of a foreign world, anxious also to show their own goodwill. While I drank the cognac, the visitor from Massachusetts told me his story. Leaving his native country, working in America, establishing a business and a family. I responded with the directness one learns in Greece. We exchanged names and addresses. When I stood up to leave, we shook hands, and with an engaging mixture of American and Greek warmth of manner, "I'm glad to know you, Miss Powell," he said. "You are a fine lady."
Oral Practice 1. Practice saying these sentences from the dialogue.
Going to. Where we're going to. About now is where we're going to. We've got to bother about now is where we're going to. The only thing we've got to bother about now is where we're going to.
In Scotland. Salmon fishing in Scotland. A bit of salmon fishing in Scotland. What about doing a bit of salmon fishing in Scotland?
To me, much. It doesn't appeal to me much. all right for Arthur, but it doesn't appeal to me much. That might be all right for Arthur, but it doesn't appeal to me much.
Mary. Do you think, Mary? What do you think, Mary? Very funny. What do you think, Mary? Our honeymoon. Where we had our honeymoon. That place on the Costa Brava where we had our honeymoon. Going back to that place on the Costa Brava where we had our honeymoon. Well, what about going back to that place on the Costa Brava where we had our honeymoon?
Oral Practice 2. Listen to the dialogue and then take the part of B.
Have you decided where you're going for your summer holidays yet?
What? It's only January. You don't expect me to have even thought about it yet, surely?
But this is the time most people make their arrangements. All the television commercials are showing. You must have seen them.
Yes, of course I have. But I'm not most people.
Well, when do you fix your holidays up?
I don't usually. I usually think about it just a couple of days before I actually go.
But surely you can't make any satisfactory arrangements in time.
There are no arrangements to make. When the time comes, I just throw a few things in the car and leave.
But you must know where you're going, where you want to stay, and so on.
No, I don't. I let my car take me somewhere and just arrive.
Well, I think half the fun of a holiday is to look through all the brochures, to make the decision, and to look forward to it for months.
I'm usually too busy to think about my holidays until the time comes.
Now wind the tape back to the beginning of this dialogue, and this time speak at the same time as B. Now here's the dialogue again, and this time you take the part of B.
Have you decided where you're going for your summer holidays yet? But this is the time most people make their arrangements. All the television commercials are showing. You must have seen them. Well, when do you fix your holidays up? But surely you can't make any satisfactory arrangements in time. But you must know where you're going, where you want to stay, and so on. Well, I think half the fun of a holiday is to look through all the brochures, to make the decision, and to look forward to it for months.
Oral Practice 3. Listen to Richard Hornsey talking about his attitude to holidays abroad. Then answer the questions in your book.
Right, Richard. When you go for a holiday abroad, what sort of things do you look for?
Well, at my age, I'm sort of ripening in years, Mike, and I always feel that the first thing that one should look for at this time of life is a reasonable hotel. I like a reasonably comfortable hotel, good boozing facilities, good. I like sand and sea, so I like to find places near near the sea or reasonably near. And that's all really. And food, of course.
Yes. Are you interested in the sort of visual aspects of where you're going to, the sort of things to see, architecture and so on?
Well, I used to be when I was a student. I used to spend, for the first 10 to 15 years of my travelling life, I probably spent more time going to places which were architecturally interesting. Now I find that I like to be in a place which may be within a striking distance of interesting architectural features, but I wouldn't specifically choose a place for that purpose now.
Yeah, I'm not only thinking of architectural things, but anything sort of visual.
Well, yes, I mean natural beauty, everything, yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything which actually annoys you when you go on holiday, or anything which has annoyed you?
Yes. I get very annoyed if I arrive and it's the weather's terrible. If it's pouring down with rain the whole vacation. I get very annoyed with hotels which claim to be what they're not. I don't mind staying in a simple, plain hotel, but if I stay in a simple, plain hotel which claims to be a high-class luxury hotel with double bathroom and en suite, I get annoyed.
Yeah. Do you prefer to go to places where you can speak the language?
If I could choose, I would never go to a country where I couldn't speak the language. Of course, there are certain exceptions. Obviously, one can't say one will never go to Greece because one doesn't speak Greek.
You've been to Greece, have you?
Yes, several times.
How did that impress you?
Well, I think Greece is an absolutely marvellous place to be.
In what ways?
Well, I like the feeling of an island civilization. I like the climate there. I like the people. The food is all right, particularly, of course, fish and the wines and things are all right. And there's a lot of variety. One island is completely different from another. And on the Peloponnese, you find tremendous differences from one area to another. And some most impressive sites, like Delphi, which is remarkable.
Yeah, when you go on holiday, I'm sure this might not be always the same answer, but do you like to do things, or do you like to just relax?
Well, I like to do both. What I prefer to do is liking sun and sea and sand, the 3 S's. I like to spend the first week, say if I'm going on a holiday for 2 weeks, I'd like to spend the first week rushing about seeing everything I want to see, and then the second week doing very little other than swim and lie on the beach.
Oral practice 4. You can't help the first speaker because you've got your own jobs to do. Look at the pictures in your book and listen to the examples.
Can you help me with the gardening?
No, I'm sorry. I'm busy cooking the dinner.
No, I'm sorry. I'm busy cooking the dinner.
I'm painting the kitchen. Can you help me?
No, I'm sorry. I'm busy doing the ironing.
No, I'm sorry. I'm busy doing the ironing. Now, you do the same. Use the pictures to help you.
Can you help me with the gardening?
No, I'm sorry. I'm busy cooking the dinner.
I'm painting the kitchen. Can you help me?
No, I'm sorry. I'm busy doing the ironing.
I'd like a hand with the washing up if you're free.
No, I'm sorry. I'm busy watering the flowers.
Please help me fold the clothes.
No, I'm sorry. I'm busy doing the dusting.
Come and help me put the curtains up.
No, I'm sorry. I'm busy cleaning the windows.
Could you possibly help me with the hoovering?
No, I'm sorry. I'm busy making the bed.
Could you help me cut the grass?
No, I'm sorry. I'm busy cleaning the car.
What about helping me with the shopping?
No, I'm sorry. I'm busy peeling the potatoes. That's the end of Oral Practice 4. Oral Practice 5. Again, you can't help. This time, you're just too busy. Listen to the examples first.
Can you help me do the gardening?
No, I'm afraid I'm too busy to do the gardening.
No, I'm afraid I'm too busy to do the gardening.
I'm painting the kitchen. Can you help me?
No, I'm afraid I'm too busy to paint the kitchen.
No, I'm afraid I'm too busy to paint the kitchen. Now you go on in the same way.
Can you help me do the gardening?
No, I'm afraid I'm too busy to do the gardening.
I'm painting the kitchen. Can you help me?
No, I'm afraid I'm too busy to paint the kitchen.
I'd like a hand doing the washing up, if you're free.
No, I'm afraid I'm too busy to do the washing up.
Please help me fold the clothes.
No, I'm afraid I'm too busy to fold the clothes.
Come and help me put the curtains up.
No, I'm afraid I'm too busy to put the curtains up.
Could you possibly help me do the hoovering?
No, I'm afraid I'm too busy to do the hoovering.
Could you help me cut the grass?
No, I'm afraid I'm too busy to cut the grass.
What about helping me to do the shopping?
No, I'm afraid I'm too busy to do the shopping. That's the end of Oral Practice 5. Oral Practice 6. Verbs that can be both transitive and intransitive. Listen to the examples. Are you boiling the kettle?
Yes, the kettle's boiling.
Yes, the kettle's boiling.
Do you grow tomatoes in your garden?
Yes, tomatoes grow in my garden.
Yes, tomatoes grow in my garden.
Now you go on. Are you boiling the kettle?
Yes, the kettle's boiling.
Do you grow tomatoes in your garden?
Yes, tomatoes grow in my garden.
Are you playing the radio?
Yes, the radio's playing.
Are you cooking the dinner?
Yes, the dinner's cooking.
Have you broken your pen?
Yes, my pen's broken.
Did your friends meet each other yesterday?
Yes, they met yesterday.
Did Mr. Smith burn his house down?
Yes, it burnt down.
Did you spill the milk on the floor?
Yes, it spilt on the floor.
That's the end of Oral Practice 6. Oral Practice 7. Dictation. First, cover up the passage and listen, please. I always think that the worst part of a holiday is arriving home. First of all, there are always hundreds of letters waiting for you, all of which have to be answered. There is always at least one nasty reminder about a bill you meant to pay before you left. There is always something bad in the refrigerator that you should have thrown away before going. Then, when you have a look at the garden, either everything has died because there has been no rain and it hasn't been watered, or if it has rained, there are more weeds than plants. Now you'll hear the passage again, and this time you must write down what you hear. I always think that the worst part of a holiday is arriving home. First of all, there are always hundreds of letters waiting for you, all of which have to be answered. There is always at least one nasty reminder about a bill you meant to pay. Before you left. There is always something bad in the refrigerator. That you should have thrown away before going. Then, when you have a look at the garden, either everything has died because there has been no rain, and it hasn't been watered, or if it has rained, there are more weeds than plants. Now here's the passage again. I always think that the worst part of a holiday is arriving home. First of all, there are always hundreds of letters waiting for you, all of which have to be answered. There is always at least one nasty reminder about a bill you meant to pay before you left. There is always something bad in the refrigerator that you should have thrown away before going. Then, when you have a look at the garden, either everything has died because there has been no rain and it hasn't been watered, or if it has rained, there are more weeds than plants. Now, check the dictation in your book. That's the end of Chapter 13.